vampire blood, evil teeth, scar stuff, glowing goop, oozing orb. If you grew up in the 70s or 80s, you probably remember this memorable line of monster makeup. These cleverly packaged concoctions flooded store shelves every year around Halloween and were brought to us by the mad geniuses at Imagineering. Not that one. Yes. For decades, Imagineering was the #1 purveyor of creative makeup supplies for the Halloween industry. They practically owned Halloween until suddenly they didn't. These spectacular special effects have all but faded into obscurity. Still, I can't help wondering, if Imagineering was around today, what would they have dreamed up next, and what would that have looked like? Who knows? Maybe something like this. One thing you should know about me, I love Halloween. As a kid, my parents would invest a lot of their time and hard-earned money making elaborate costumes for both me and my brother. This is long before the term cosplay was even a thing, or there were video tutorials online showing you how to do all this stuff. Growing up, I was also fascinated by the art of making movies and special effects. I would even make my own haunted house attractions in our family's spare bedroom, much to my parents' chagrin. I don't think they were too crazy about me inviting random neighborhood kids into our home at odd hours of the day. Like most kids with a flair for creativity, I dreamed of growing up and becoming an Imagineer. But as much as I do love Disneyland, I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. So imagine my surprise when I discovered that another Imagineering, one that made some of the most amazing Halloween special effects makeup, was located right in my own backyard. I'm sure my expectations far exceeded what it would have actually been like, but a kid can dream, can't he? If you don't remember Imagineering or need a little refresher course, let me fill you in. Imagineering Inc. was the brainchild of Larry Liff, who was the inventor of the very first plastic vampire teeth. He named them evil teeth so as not to limit his diabolical dentures to merely vampires, and the rest is history. That one invention would spawn a diverse line of beloved Halloween staples that would capture the hearts and minds of kids everywhere. Imagineering branched off into several divergent product lines, from their popular latex monster masks to their deluxe special effects makeup kits like one of my favorites, the Face. But it was their inexpensive rack items that captured my imagination. This included everything from wacky prosthetic eyes, ears, noses, and teeth to bizarre special effects applications like scar stuff, creepy skin, tooth out, and monster makeup lab. I stocked up every Halloween and anxiously awaited what new products they would come up with next. Alas, like all good things, they eventually faded away, never to return. Regrettably, I never got to see what could have been. So, in the spirit of Halloween, monsters, and makeup, we're going to resurrect Imagineering from the grave. So join me, Scott Serkland, in the Art Lab. Let's suit up. Here we are back in the Art Lab, and you know, the thing I love so much about Imagineering's line of products is the packaging. Their quirky hand-drawn, hand-lettered aesthetic really stood out amongst all the other creepy horror themes that you'd see on every other product on the shelves. In an effort to continue Imagineering's most endearing product line, we could go in a number of different directions, but one thing's for sure, it has to encapsulate that fun and inviting look. In fact, we should make that one of our rules. Did I mention the rules? Like any great design project, we get to establish a few rules to help keep us focused on our goal. Rule number 1, respect the original. Like I said, whatever product we create needs to feel right at home next to all the other Imagineering makeup offerings. Rule number 2, whenever possible, use common everyday tools and materials. I'll leave affiliate links to where you can find all the materials we'll be using in the description of this video. Rule number 3, make it your own. The goal here is to create a new product that Imagineering never made, but if you saw it, you'd think that they did. So what can we create that Imagineering would have made if they were still around today? As far as different creatures, they've covered vampires, werewolves, and mummies. But since the 70s and 80s, zombies have grown in popularity. I think it's safe to assume that Imagineering would have eventually got around to making some zombie makeup. And truth be told, I'm a bit of a zombie fan. I mean, I even write and illustrate a kids versus zombie themed comic book, which coincidentally you can find at Serkworks.com. So let's brainstorm a few ideas for our zombie makeup. Sorry, I couldn't resist. One of my favorite zombie designs is the Tar Man from Return of the Living Dead. His unique look is a result of a toxic spill. I'm thinking a toxic waste zombie would give us an excuse to make our makeup glow in the dark, separating what we're creating from all the other special effects makeup that Imagineering produced. Imagineering did make some glow-in-the-dark makeup, but I'm thinking of combining two of their products, Glow Goop and Creepy Skin, to make toxic zombie flesh. So we need to not only create the packaging, but also the makeup itself. Let's talk about what kind of supplies we need. For the packaging, I'm going to hand draw the art, scan it, and digitally color it. So I'm going to use sketch paper, felt tip pens or microns, and Adobe Photoshop. Of course, you can use whatever photo editing software you like. Plus a scanner and a printer. We also need a few plastic makeup containers. We need printer paper, some chipboard, a standard hole punch, a circular punch slightly smaller than the size of your container, a rolling cutter, scissors or an X-Acto knife and a metal ruler, a sheet of grid paper, a thumbtack, shrink wrap, and a heat gun or hair dryer. Woo, that is a lot, but don't forget, I'll leave links to all of this stuff. Now on to the makeup. For the makeup, grab some petroleum jelly, all-purpose flour, cotton balls, glow-in-the-dark makeup or non-toxic pigment powder. Yeah, it's supposed to be quote-unquote toxic, but we really don't want to use anything that's actually toxic. We also need a bowl and something to mix it all together with. Speaking of which, let's get started mixing our monsterific concoction. It's time to mix up our makeup. I'll start by adding some all-purpose flour to my dish. Now I'll add the petroleum jelly. We'll mix the two ingredients thoroughly. The mix shouldn't stick to your fingers. I'll add some more flour until I get something the consistency of Play-Doh that doesn't stick to my hands when kneading it. Just keep adding more flour as you go until you reach the proper consistency. Now to add the glow-in-the-dark powder. I'm using about 2/3 of this package for the amount of makeup that I mixed. I'll continue to knead the dough to make sure that the glow powder is properly mixed in. I'm separating my mix into two parts. I want to experiment by adding some cotton, as it was one of the original ingredients in Imagineering's Creepy Skin. But I don't want to ruin the whole batch if it doesn't work out. I'll tear off some cotton and add a little bit to my mix. I'm not really happy with the results, so I'm going to recommend skipping the cotton altogether. Now to test out our toxic zombie flesh to see if it gives off that radioactive glow. Wow, I'd say this is a success. Look at it glow. Let's set this aside and move on to our packaging. The makeup containers that resemble the original packaging are difficult to match. I'm using the container from a pack of grease makeup that I picked up at a Spirit Halloween store. It's pretty close. I'm scooping out the makeup and giving the container a really good cleaning. The inside container doesn't have a lid, so you have to use the clear plastic packaging for the top. Here are some other options. You can find metal containers in various sizes on Amazon. Here's a container for shredded beef jerky that I saved. You can also find these plastic petri dishes online. Of course, the original containers were all white, so you may have to spray paint them. I can't tell you how much I love the simple cartoon nature and whimsical hand lettering used in these designs. It reminds me of late 70s, early 80s Saturday morning cartoon interstitials like Schoolhouse Rock, Time for Timer, and Scooter Computer and Mr. Chips. Like if you remember any of these wraparound cartoon segments. Now it's time to start sketching out the art for my label. I'll use that same Spirit makeup card back as a template. I'll begin with some light sketches, then once I find a look that I like, I'll commit to some darker lines. This lettering is super funky. It's straight out of the 70s. So fun to draw. I'm digging this drawing of this kid wearing this zombie makeup. This is really shaping up to be something reminiscent of the classic Imagineering line of products. In addition to the card back design, we also want to design the circular label that will later be placed on top of the makeup case. Now to break out my ink pens and solidify the line art. I've scanned the line art and now I'm adding some solid spot colors in Photoshop. I'm keeping the amount of colors that I'm using to about 4 or 5 in order to match the limited color palette of the original packaging. I created a knockoff version of the Imagineering logo in Adobe Illustrator. I'm going with Imaginasium. It's kind of a combination of imagination, amazing, and emporium. Plus, it has a little nod to Arizona when I spell it with the AZ. That is where it all started. If you're subscribed to my mailing list, you'll get this logo along with the package design template for this project. You'll also get the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's chock full of digital comic book style assets that you can use in your creative projects. If you're a member of my Patreon, there's an option to get the complete art files for what we just created. Time to print out our package design. I'm going to adhere the printed art to our chipboard using spray adhesive. This should mimic the paper craft look that was common on the back of many of the original Imagineering packages. Now to cut it all out with my X-Acto knife. I'm not sure if it comes across in the photo reference, but I remember the Imagineering card backs being covered in tiny little holes. I think it had something to do with the shrink wrapping process they use. We don't have access to whatever process that was, but I want to replicate that look all the same. So I'm placing grid paper over the card back and using a thumbtack to punch out the little holes. We also want to punch out one large hole with our standard hole punch so that our product can hang on the rack. Some of Imagineering products had a standard circle, others had this style of punch. You can use whatever you like. Many of the card backs had a tab in the corner where you could tear off the price tag. I'll use a rolling cutter to perforate this corner. I'll use a large circular hole punch to pop out the container label. These punches come in a variety of different sizes. Make sure to find the right size for the container you're using. You could print these out on sticker paper, but I'm just going to use spray adhesive. I'll place the label on the lid and secure it to the top of the container. I'm dishing out some of our glow-in-the-dark toxic zombie flesh and placing it in my container. Now to put everything together. I'm stretching the plastic over the top and shrinking it with my heat gun. And voila! Now, if we only had a spokesperson to help us get the word out about our new creation. Greetings, mortals. I'm your Master of Ceremonies, Vincent Price. Here to tell you about a ghoulishly, ghastly new product from Imagineering, specifically designed to transform your human form into that of an undead creature of the night with an insatiable hunger for human flesh. Toxic zombie flesh. It's a simple application with surprising results, sure to have your friends running in abject terror from your glowing, ghoulish appearance. It's not for the faint of heart. Use with caution. Toxic zombie flesh, new from Imagineering. And there you have it, another nostalgic novelty resurrected from the grave. If you like this project, then make like a zombie and reach out and attack those like and subscribe buttons. And if you want to see me reverse engineer another childhood classic, you can click on this video right up here. New from Imagineering. New from Imagineering. New from Imagination. New from Imagineering. New from What's the line? What? Oh, that's ridiculous. I didn't come back from the dead for this.